Hi guys, how you going? It's Campbell here from Autodidactic, and today we are going to talk about Australian fake history, and I will show you proof and pictures of how when they got to Australia it was already built out, the buildings were already here, and we have just been told a lie. So stay tuned, fake Australian history coming up. Hi guys, so here we go, Campbell from Autodidactic, and as always guys, you want to be autodidactic because it means to be self-educated, and you want to be self-educated because you do not want to know and learn what these people are trying to teach us. Okay, so today, like I said, it's a history of Australia, the fake history of Australia. History of Australia is a history of the area and people of the Commonwealth of Australia, and its preceding Indigenous and colonial societies. Okay. First known landing of Europeans was by Dutch navigator William Jensen in 1606, and that was up on the west coast in Western Australia. Later that year, Spanish explorers. So they were basically up around the west coast of Australia. Then in the 17th century, and dubbed the continent New Holland, something Mexican Trepangers visited Australia's north coast after 1720, possibly earlier. Other European explorers followed until 1770, when Lieutenant Captain James Cook charted the east coast of Australia for Great Britain and returned accounts favouring colonisation at Botany Bay, which is now Sydney in New South Wales. First fleet of British ships arrived at Botany Bay in January 1788. Okay, so that's when they arrived, and that was to a void land. You know, there was no civilization here. They tell us that the people here, the native people, were just very, very uncivilized, is that the word? You know, very, sort of just basically still living in the bush and running around like hunter-gatherers. So is that correct or not? Well, let's have a look at some pictures. So this is just a map of Australia. This is from the late 1700s. I thought, actually, it could be a bit earlier, 1760s or so. But as you can see, Tasmania is joined to the mainland, which it obviously isn't anymore. This is when it's called New Holland still, New Holland. But what caught me, this is Van Diemen's Land before it became Tasmania. But there's towns through here which is actually water now. That's actually Bass Strait. Excuse me. Okay, here's another map showing the same kind of thing. A bit earlier, Nouvelle Hollande. Actually, this one has got a date on it. There you go, 1753. And again, joined up. Terre de Demon, that's in Van Diemen's Land. And yeah, as you can see, there's towns sort of all the way up to there. I'm not sure if these are towns or what exactly that all is. But there's a lot of stuff on the west coast here as well. A bit of New Zealand. Sorry. This picture, same kind of deal. It's starting to sort of turn into an island, Tasmania. It's now called Australia. But as you can see, there just seems to be towns and stuff. I don't know, this seems to be joined. This is the top of Tasmania. There still seems to be a peninsula here that's joined with towns on it. And this one, does that say 1806? I-806. So that's probably from I-806, as we say. And then we get this where it is now an island. Or is it? It's still got, I don't know. These look like names of towns, and it seems to go all the way down and around. It still looks like there's some kind of connection there. But also this is Australia, you know, and I'm not sure what year. I'm pretty sure this is around 1810 or so, early 1800s, and it just looks like there's, you know, settlements everywhere, which we are told that there should not be. Okay, so interesting pictures. This is just a bit of artwork from early, sort of 1800s in Sydney. Gin, there was a big gin problem, and of course it looks like, the men in hats are sort of harassing the people and the women. Okay, so here is a picture of the redcoats, the British, just sort of walking a load of convicts. And as you can see, this guy is a convict. He's got a top hat on. There's another top hat back here. So these are quite upper class people. This gentleman here looks like he's Asian. This guy here too could be Asian. I don't know. He looks sort of, not Caucasian. So it's just an interesting shot. I just thought that was interesting, the way that the people are dressed. I mean, this guy here looks like he's got a military jacket on, but he's definitely got chains on. He's got this hat. Looks like he's been captured from an army, or he's like some sort of upper class kind of person. But yeah, and they all look fairly well dressed. They've all got nice hats and everything on, good clothes, and they just don't look like they're all English, Caucasian people from England, do they? And here we go. This is a picture. This is a police office in George Street. Obviously, look at this building here, big dome, big steeple with the antenna on top, big walls, electric lights, mud-flooded roads, guy pushing a wheelbarrow, no technology. Now this one is, I think let's just see if I can find where it was. This one here. Okay, so this is a scene outside the police office, George Street, 1836. So this is, 48 years after they literally say that they rocked up to a continent that had no, civilization to talk of as far as towns, cities, construction and all that kind of stuff. But less than 50 years later, this is a police station, police office, They've built that, and they haven't even got roads yet. Okay, so what's going on there? How did they do that? And again, this is all said to be done with convict labour, unskilled convict labour. They're supposed to be criminals, the worst of society. And they just can whip this up. And of course, the other thing is they would have to have built quarries, have built, clay mines, brickworks, cement works, have, be mining the lime, because they couldn't bring anything with them. They had to get it all from here. This one is great as well. This again, look at this cathedral, 2 spires, they're like 2 stories just there. So how tall is this? You can see the people. There's something up here. If we zoom in, you'll see that's like, that's 2 stories there. It looks like it's mud flooded and going down to a 3-story. And through here as well, we have more big buildings. Now this one is basically when the colonists used to meet with the native inhabitants. Let's have a look. Sorry, haven't got this worked out too well, have I? Here we go. The annual, what does it say here? Aboriginal and European annual meeting days, 1814 to 1837. Okay, you can see the Aboriginals, the natives here. You can see everyone here is pretty well dressed, top hats on them all, apart from a couple of, convict slavey type people doing a bit of work. I've got this big gate as well. I mean, is that made out of iron or something? And even this building here, you can see how tall the people are, so it's a fairly sizable building. But yeah, so this scene is supposed to be before 1837. So again, that's less than 50 years after they stepped off the boat, and they've got these big stone buildings here, 3-story buildings. Doesn't really make a lot of sense, does it? How did they do it? Again, you know, slave labour. This photo is called the Aboriginal cricket team. It's from the early 1800s. As you can see, they're all native Australians, apart from this guy who's wearing what looks like it could be a cricket hat, but these guys have all sort of got not cricket hats, bowler hat things, but they just all look really well dressed, don't they? They seem to have the beards and their haircuts of the style of the time. You know, they're all well dressed, they all look fit and healthy. This guy's even got his foot up, looking pretty cool. You know, so were these guys part of the civilization that was here? You know, we just been told that they were, you know, in quotes, savages and all this kind of stuff. You know, is that a story? Who knows? This one is, I found this on a page, and it says it's the Zoological Gardens at Bondi. Now up here it says Botany, so that would be Botany Bay, which was the colony, so supposedly it was down near Bondi Beach Way. Obviously this is a very early picture. You know, we've got some emus here, got a swing, and we have 2 elephants. You know, this would be early 1800s, you know, 1850 at the latest. You know, where did these elephants come from? And again, a massive building in the background. This looks like a huge spire. It looks almost like a ship mast. But yeah, very interesting. Zoological Gardens at Botany. This is just a picture of Captain Cook landing in 1788 and the native people again. I mean, this time it looks like they've actually got pants and stuff on, but you know, they're basically drawn as savages with loincloths and spears. But the reason I put this one in is I just noticed this in the background, these pointy spire-like things. Are they spires? Are they tops of a building or something? Because this is Botany Bay, Sydney. There are Blue Mountains, which are a couple of hours away, but they're not this big, and they're not that tall, and they don't look anything like that. And the mountain ranges in Australia are all fairly low. So that's, yeah, just looked out of place. And here's just another picture of, you know, these are the natives, we're told, but were they inhabitants of you know, were they part of the society that lived in these buildings or built these buildings? You know, I know these are ones that they've rounded up to kill or whatever, to get rid of the history. And here's one that's not chained up. He's just sitting there with his dog. You know, what's happening there? Here's another picture. This is that chain gang again in Hobart, and you can see top hats, well-dressed people, military type clothes and helmet looking thing. Another top hat. A lot of them don't look Caucasian. This gentleman. So, you know, who are all these people? Are these the inhabitants of the, you know, the civilization that was here? Was it multicultural? This is just a picture of, you know, I don't know if it's a girl or not. It's not a picture, it's a drawing. This is convicts ploughing. This is how we're told that they sort of flattened and ploughed the lands. Got all these convicts pulling, and this one got at the back of the plough. Who knows, maybe they did do that. Seems a little strange. Bit of that picture again. Okay, here we go. Let's get into some better stuff. Into some buildings that should not be there. Look at this. Okay, so this is some people. No doubt we'll be told these are convicts. This is a guy in the hat with the whip. And as you can see, it looks like there's nothing, there's no roads, and it looks like there's been some kind of, you know, deluge or mud flood or something that just goes straight down into the ocean. It looks like that because you can see this is definitely got houses, you know. Look at all these built up buildings in this massive cathedral. This thing here is at least 2 stories tall, so this is a big building, but it looks, you know, this all looks like it's just been wiped out. But I mean, guys, this photo or this drawing, it's supposed to be Sydney, you know, Botany Bay in the sort of late 1700s. You know, who built all this stuff? Where'd it come from? And it doesn't make sense. Look at this big building up here, big 3-story one. Another big one. You know, they're all huge. Look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4 stories. And right, looks like it goes right into the water, on the water. Look at this. 2 massive things on each side with this small building as well. It looks like it's been sunk or something. I'm not sure. But there's, you know, the roads, you know, they're not looking paved. They're just all mud covered. There's no roads here. It's all mud covered. There's no people. There's no, you know, trees on this sort of big bit here. So what's going on? You know, this was all there, all built up when white man, or when European settlers, whoever they were, arrived. It's just another caricature, you know, of the man and how they sort of like to stand over people, and the men in hats, and, you know, with the ones in power. This is just a drawing. Obviously, it's supposed to be of when Captain Cook, you know, was unloading the first fleet. Got some tents here, but what's this in the background? This looks like a house with a chimney, and it looks like it's, I don't know, up on stilts or something. Like, as they arrived, that's already there. I mean, obviously this isn't a photo, but it's an old drawing. Why would you draw that into it? And again, look at the landscape. There's not many trees, and these mountains, you know, they look a lot higher than they are now. This is another, what was it's called, prisoner gang, I think. As you can see, they've got all the arrows, which, you know, sort of marks them out as being prisoners or convicts. They've got the chains on their feet here. Government jail gang, Sydney, New South Wales. Again, if they're convicts, this is early. You know, the last convicts were 1848, so it's before 1850. So less than 60 years after white man landed on a barren continent with nothing. And look at this architecture. Okay, this looks like a Greco-Roman type of architecture in the background. And cardboards, all this ornate stuff, because that's what you would do. You wouldn't build, you know, wood buildings with the easy resources you could get. You would build stone, right? This one too, a very early picture, painting. Got the boats. And just look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4-story house. What was that? 1, 2, 3, sorry. And this one's 2 stories. But they look the same, so has that one lost its bottom story? You can see this one's doors over here, this one's in the middle. Half window, who knows? Again here, 1, 2, 3-story building. And again, this just looks like a mud flood. There's no roads here, and it looks, you know, there's no trees. It looks like something's come through here and straight down into the water. And, you know, this looks like this sort of cliffs, like something, you know, I don't know, the water's gone down or something. It's all the cliffs washed away. There's houses, and up on the hill here, more big houses. And look, we've got these tall ships, clippers and stuff. So this is, you know, early, guys, and look what they've built, and they've done it all without roads, without cars, without machineries, and with slave labour. So don't add up. Now this one is good. This is Hobart. Let's just have a quick look. I think it's this one. No, history of Sydney. That's the picture I showed you before. Yeah, this is on one, it says 1787. It's very early. Okay, I've lost that one. Maybe, no, this is it here, okay. Arrival, immigration and departure records from 1803 to 1900. And they've given us this photo. So they're not giving us a date of anything, this is just a site for records. But basically, I mean, you can see the tall ships. I mean, even if this was 1900, which it doesn't look like it is, but even if it was, look at the amount of stuff that they've already built up. And the thing is, this is Tasmania. Okay, so we're not talking about 1788 anymore, because they weren't here in Tasmania. They got here in 1803. I'm pretty sure. Tasmania, first colony is 1803. Okay, and then basically small numbers of settlement, small numbers of whalers and sealers, set up communities. So this is before convicts as well. 1804, colonisation of Tasmania began to formalise. The River Dern, blah, 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 blah. Agricultural expansion. By 1920, British authorities controlled around 15% of Tasmania, stretching from Hobart to Launceston. Much of this land had been settled by farming, with colonists exporting grain to Great Britain, rearing cattle for consumption. It was during this agricultural expansion that the population of colonists rose from 7,100 in 1821 to 25,000 people in 1830. Okay, so basically it started to be, colonised. I can't remember the dates of the convicts. I think in Tasmania it was only for 20 years. I think it was from the sort of 1840s to 1860s. I can't remember exactly, but as you can see, there wasn't even anyone there, they're telling us, and they'd only had 15% of Tasmania, that they'd expanded or explored into. And so this shot, this is, look at these buildings, 1, 2, 3, 4 stories. And there's tons of them, and they're up in the hills here in the background. More of them here. This looks like, what's that, a church? Sort of two things, or the spire, or it could be an obelisk of some kind. These are actually all houses up on the hills. If you look, it looks like a lot of them are sort of half sunk in something. Another cathedral here with a big spire, big aerial on it. Another one up here. Looks like that one's got a dome and a big aerial, and then the streets are just mud. And again, it just looks like it's gone straight into the water. And as you can see, there's a few trees on the hill here, but there's nothing on this, there's hardly any trees, just this little row here. And, lots of debris and stuff. By the looks of it, I don't know, it could just be stuff coming off the boat, but I mean, look at how built up that is. And that's Hobart, and what that looks sort of circa 1850s or 60s maybe at the latest, which is what 30 or 40 years after they sort of had any real sort of population there. And even by the 1850s, there was only 30,000 people in all of Tasmania, and this is just one of the colonies. There were other colonies. So if they're spread out, does this look like a town that was made for, even for 10,000 people? I mean, it looks pretty big, with all these houses and all these buildings, built pretty well. It's just a dead giveaway. It was all here when white man got here, or when the Europeans, the English so-called, got here. Here's another very early picture, and you can see the mud all around here, and they've had to carve through here to a dock or something. This looks like the top of an obelisk, I'm not sure, something sticking out of the ground. But again, 1, 2, 3-story building right on the water. And there's a few other houses and buildings in the background. There's a couple more there. Yeah, this sort of, I don't know, stone structure just staying there by itself. Yeah, they've carved this out. And yeah, this building just sitting there. I mean, these could be made from wood. I'm not sure. It looks stone, but it's obviously smaller than this, and that does look the same as these ones. So, but I mean, this is very early. They may have built a couple of cottages, but as far as building a 3-story, apartment building type thing, with convicts, again, with, where they get the materials from, how they get them there, how they construct it, where's all the scaffolding, where's all the plans, who built it, you can't find any of this stuff anywhere. This is called Strawberry Hills, I believe, and it's in Western Australia. Now, I live in WA and I haven't heard about this place. Now this, I'm pretty sure I've got something on this. Sorry, just... oh, sorry guys. No, maybe I don't. No, that's not it either. Okay, so basically it's called Strawberry Hills, and it was, oh, that's where it is. Oh no, hang on, sorry, this isn't Strawberry Hills. Okay, I've completely mixed it up. This is the Parramatta Women's Workhouse. Okay, so I do have this. Okay, here, Parramatta Female Factory, sorry. Parramatta Female Factory in the former penal colony of New South Wales is located in the grounds of the Cumberland Hospital, North Parramatta, New South Wales, Australia. It was one of 13 female factories in the colonies of New South Wales and Van Diemen's Land, which is Tasmania. In New South Wales, female factories were also established in Bathurst, blah, blah, blah. History: the first female factory was above the Parramatta Jail in what is now Prince Alfred Square. Formerly known as Jail Green and Hanging Green, this 2-story building was commissioned by Governor King in 1804. Now, up we have here, this one opened in 1821 and as always closed, 25, less than 30 years later, but 1821. Okay, so this is in Sydney, so 1821 means 33 years after they landed with nothing. That's when it was built, 23 years. The factory was destination for many convict women sent as prisoners to the colony of New South Wales. Over 9,000 names have been recorded as passing through. So these were just workhouses, guys, for people. That's where they threw the women and children, and they're telling us that they built that 23 years after they landed, and look at it. Again, 1, 2, 3 stories, massive chimneys, buildings everywhere, obviously stone. In the background you can see there's more buildings. Alright, and they're trying to tell us that, and there's no roads going there. It's in the middle of nowhere. There's no roads. How did they get in there? How did they get the stuff in there? How did they build it? They didn't. These are just some guards from Port Arthur. These are convict guards. So this is sort of pre-1848. So it's still early days. They don't look that. He's got a bit of a jacket on. These guys haven't, but they don't look British, do they? They don't really look British. Some of them do, maybe. And of course, they're standing before this architecture, classic, keystone arches. St. James Church, the Supreme Court House. Yeah, like dirt roads, horses, no cars, massive spire, Greco-Roman with the pillars, portico, domed building here. This looks, 3-story, another domed building. I've got all the artwork, all the, the nice finishes. As you can see, one looks like 3 stories, chimneys. The date's been cut off this one. There's another building out there. You can see there's buildings through there as well, and even out the back. It's totally built up. Totally built up. And this, again, would be pre-1850 at the latest, probably earlier. this is the one I thought, well, yeah, Strawberry Hill. This one is in WA. Again, out in the middle of nowhere, no roads going there. We have some natives, poor traders, they normally are, spears and loincloths and things, and then we have, the so-called British and the gentry and that, and then we have this massive structure. I mean, I've never heard of this place, and I live in Western Australia, so I'm going to look into it. But yeah, I mean, that's, big chimneys, big brick buildings, stone buildings, and of course no roads, no quarries, no sign of construction, all built by convicts, we're told, unskilled convicts. Here's another old painting. As you can see, the natives again, drawn with spears and loincloths. Very early, got, the galleon type ships here. But look, look at this tower in the background, look at all these houses, and look how built up it is. And, this would be, pre-1800 really, with, these sort of boats and these depictions of the natives. And as you can see, there's not many trees, dirt roads, but built up, buildings all through here. Towers, more buildings. So they, did they just magically appear? Well, I think they did. As these people came up on the horizon, they magically saw them and thought, we'll just take that. Because there's no way that they built it. There's just no explanation. I mean, and if they did, would they not be proud of their achievements and be boasting about it rather than knocking these buildings over? Okay, this one, female convicts made up a substantial part of prisoners deported to the federal colony of New South Wales. So again, New South Wales. And as you can see, got lots of top hats and stuff. Got women. There doesn't look like there's any convicts there. This guy's assaulted with a gun. But look at the buildings, guys. I mean, with these ships, again, might be 1850 at the outset, at the outside, but that means in less than 70 years they've built, look at this tower here, and they've built up all this stuff. And again, at least 2-3 story buildings. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 stories. All the same architecture we see all over the world. I mean, look at it, and it's just completely built out. And again, right down to the water, as I'm starting to notice in a lot of places. Just, this is just, it's obviously not a photograph, but this is, this was drawn at the time, and it's, you find this on all the government sites. This is the official story for what was going on, 1850s or before in Sydney. Brand new colony, pretty much, built by convicts. This one I found, this is obviously again early. We've got the red coats still. So this would be definitely pre-1800. Again, obviously it's a drawing or a painting. And this was labelled as construction site in 1790s. Okay, so construction site. Got these guys with wooden wheelbarrows, a couple of hand shovels, wheelbarrows, and they just seem to be getting rid of this dirt and this mud. Okay, they're all getting rid of it, not bringing it in. So they're clearing it out, but look at these, already in the ground there's all these ends of wood. Now, if you're building something, because you can see that's not flat, if you were building something, you would flatten it out first to get the foundation flat, and then you would put in, if these are foundation stumps, you'd then put them in after. So what are they all doing, sticking out of the ground everywhere? I'm not sure what these are. These could be to unload and load things on the ships, I'm not sure, but there's one sitting out here. And this, what's this? It looks like it could be a stone wall of some kind. It's very wide. But yeah, I found the construction pictures, guys. I found it. That's how everything was built, apparently. Now, again, another one. This is this was called Australia's first cricket match, I think it was Australia's first cricket match. As you can see, again, horses, no roads, top hats, no cars. horse and buggies, horses. And what do we have in the background here? Again, at least a 3-story building. It's huge. This looks like a cathedral with 2 spires. Could be some more stuff out there, and then another massive building, and then up here, this other big, huge spire. And again, guys, this would be pre-1850s. Now, a lot of these aren't dated, but the sites that I'm getting them off, and when I check them, they're all coming in attached to stories or with dates that are sort of pre-1850. So there you go. How did they build all that? That's already there. It's proof, right? It's already there. You know, like these guys, they don't look like they can build stuff. They're all the upper class and the gentry, and then the other people are the convicts. Another one. Drawing. Look at this building. Looks like a mud flooder. 3 chimneys on it. Okay, again, early picture. We've got boats, sailing ships, early sailing ships in the harbour. Got a bit of a dock here. And if we zoom in, you'll see this is like 2-3-story house with the portico. That looks like it could be a porthole. Got this looks like it's been sunk a bit, but another big structure. A massive stone bridge. The arches we see everywhere, and if you look up, these are actually all houses, guys. See that? They're all houses, all buildings. Look, this one's 2-3 stories, and again, they're right on the shore, right on the water. Some of these buildings. We have these huge ones, and then these sort of short ones. And look at the size of that compared to that or that. So are these what we're here, and these are the dinky sort of little buildings that the colonists have built? I don't know, but I can guarantee you they haven't built all these big structures. I mean, not in this time frame, because this, again, look at that picture. There's nothing there. There's also houses all over here. It's all just built out. Now they've got a few dirt roads in here, but there's no real roads. Obviously no machinery, no cars, all horse and buggy, convict labour. And it's all finished. And this would be what? Pre-1810, 1820, something like that, at least, earlier. Another one, this was dated in the 1700s, late 1790s. This is again Sydney Harbour. Just trying to get a look at the clothes there, but you can see, they're fairly old style clothes. But again, look at this. We've got some huge building here, big cathedral thing. There's a factory here giving off smoke of some kind. It looks like there's houses and buildings all up through here. Another huge building here, up on the tops of the hills, and right back there, just looks all built out. And it also looks like, it's fairly treeless, isn't it? Where are all the trees? What's happened? Where are all the roads? Another old one. Again, same kind of thing. You've got the natives portrayed as, just sort of hunter-gatherers in loincloths with spears. We've got the tall ships here. That's post-Galleon, so this one could be, 1830s, 40s maybe, don't know, but early. And again, just, you can see there's towers out here in the background, tower here, big buildings. This is all built out. I mean, I'm losing the contrast. It's a small photo, but you can see this is all buildings right down to the shoreline again. So there you go. It was all there. Okay, is that my last photo? That can't be my last photo. Maybe it is. Okay, so there you go, guys. These are all pictures of Australia, from the 1780s, 90s up until the sort of 1850s. And as you can see, buildings everywhere. It was all here. Okay, look at them all. all over them. These are all in different locations. Most of them are in New South Wales, but some are in Western Australia, Tasmania, and these are all built at the same time. Convict labour with no tools. I mean, they're just everywhere. And of course, the lack of trees, the lack of roads, the architecture type that they were building, and the cathedrals. I mean, the population. Who were the population that were here? What's really going on? Elephants in Australia in the 20s or something. How did they get elephants here on those little wooden boats? Are these part of the previous society? Hello guys, how you going? It's Campbell here from Autodidactic channel, and as always, autodidactic means to be self-educated, and guys, you want to be self-educated because you do not want to be learning what these guys are trying to teach us. Okay, so this video is touching on the foundlings information that's been put around. I think UAD's done some videos and some other people. But basically the foundlings were, like children, babies that were shipped around the world. They were shipped out from England and the UK and Europe, and also shipped on trains in the Americas from the East Coast to the West Coast. Now, this video is just to sort of show, it's just really just to show you what was going on back in the sort of 1800s. And as you can see with this meme I've got in front of me here, cities in England during the mid-1700s were overcrowded. Many people lived in poverty, without homes, jobs, food, or even toilets. That means the streets were filthy and filled with sewage, making it sick and making it easy for people to get sick. Rates were everywhere too. Now this is obviously something to do with the Black Plague, but this is the kind of story they're telling us, that back then, everything was just, overcrowded and poverty stricken and all this kind of stuff. But what may have actually been the story, as we all know, is that there may have been a catastrophe that's brought a lot of mud in, which obviously if you've got mud everywhere and water, that's going to help, promote disease and things like this. It's going to displace people. You're going to have lots of people, who have lost all their stuff, who don't have money, who don't have food. You're going to have lost all your crops and everything, all your food sources. So what happened around that time? So let's have a look here. So this is called, this is from Libraries Tasmania. So this is all to do with Australia. So before transportation, who were the convicts? From 1788 to 1868, over 160,000 men, women and children from a range of social and ethnic backgrounds were punished with transportation to Australia. And on this page you'll find the links, blah blah blah. Okay, so urban centres grew across Great Britain and Ireland in the 18th and 19th centuries as industrialisation increased, wealth distribution and social structures changed, requiring new policing and legal institutions. The justice system produced a large number of convicts, often convicted of minor crimes, requiring confinement, of course, because they're minor crimes. So crimes punishable by transportation ranged from serious transgressions with transportation used in place of the death penalty to very minor crimes where transportation was used as an alternative to adding more criminals to an already full and inadequate jails. Around 1,000 convicts were transported for political crimes such as rioting, treason and sedition. 24,000 women were transported to Australia as convicts. 12,500 of them were sent to Van Diemen's Land, which is Tasmania. Most women were first offenders, with their crimes relating to poverty. A high percentage were single, yet many left children and family behind. About 2,000 children travelled with their convict parents, entering institutions on arrival. And yes, there were actually child convicts, and they were child convicts on the First Fleet. Children as young as 9 years were transported to Australia as convicts. 20% of the transported convicts were under 20 years. The age given on records is usually the only way to tell if a convict was a child, although children arrived with adults on convict ships and vessels such as the Francis Charlotte with 139 children. So, guys, we're getting convicts, which are basically, they're telling us poor and displaced people, and we're getting these foundlings, these children that have been sent out as convicts or just as children of convicts. Yeah, all around this time that the mud flood is supposed to have been happening. This is all sort of, early to mid 1800s in Australia. This page is just called the First Fleet Fellowship, Victoria, and it just shows you, they've even given you the name, John Hudson at 9 years old. John, sometimes chimney sweeper and the youngest First Fleet convict at the time of sentencing. So he was sent out at 9. He stole some clothes, I think, stealing 1 linen shirt, 5 silk stockings, and a pistol. This is Mather, possibly no more than 14 years old at the time of her trial, sent to Australia as a convict. This is not Elizabeth Hayward, but it says was the youngest female convict at 13, blah, blah, blah. So they're sending kids out. Now, this is called Home Children. Home Children was the child migration scheme founded by Anne Macpherson in 1869, under which more than 100,000 children were sent from the United Kingdom to Australia, Canada, New Zealand and South Africa. Later research beginning in the 1980s exposed abuse and hardship of the relocated children. Australia apologised in 2019 for its involvement in the scheme. In February 2010, UK Prime Minister Gordon Brown made a formal apology. And Canadian Immigration Minister Jason Kenney stated in 2009 that Canada would not apologise to child migrants, preferring to recognise that sad period in other ways. So then this is the Home Children, and as a labour source, this is what was going on, guys. The practice of sending poor or orphan children to English and later British settler colonies to help alleviate the shortage of labour began in 1618 with the rounding up and transportation of 100 English vagrant children to the Virginia colony. In the 18th century, labour shortages in overseas colonies also encouraged the transportation of children for work in the Americas, and large numbers of children were forced to migrate, most of them from Scotland. This practice continued until it was exposed in 1757 following a civil action against Aberdeen merchants and magistrates. So guys, that's just child slavery. They're rounding up kids and sending them off to America, but where are they finding all these hundreds of vagrant kids? Why have we got vagrant kids? We don't have them today, and the population is, greatly increased. So the Children's Friends Society was founded in London in the 1830s. The Society for the Suppression of Juvenile Vagrancy through the Reformation and Immigration of Children. In 1832, the first group of children was sent to Cape Colony in South Africa and the Swan River Colony in Australia, which is Perth, where I live. Yay! And in August 1833, 230 children were shipped to Toronto and New Brunswick in Canada, and it just goes on as a social reform, right? Of course. So they're just sending kids all over the place. Now this is Australia, St. Joseph's Foundling Hospital Baby's Home Story. Now this is the one in Sydney, I believe, 1901 to 1975. In 1901, the Sisters of St. Joseph of the Sacred Heart established St. Joseph's Foundling Hospital as a purpose-built infants' home for up to 300 babies. St. Joseph's was a very large institution that also provided accommodation for expected mothers, mainly single women. In the early 1930s, the department contracted St. Joseph's Foundling Hospital to care for an additional 60 infant state wards, in addition to between 160 and 175 non-wards in residence at one time, at any one time. So that's like non-wards of the state. Wards of the state are children that have been taken from their parent and taken under care, I guess. So I don't know what a non-ward really is. Found displaced kids maybe, right? From 1931, St. Joseph's also operated as a mothercraft training school. Blah, blah, blah. Now this is the Victorian Infant Asylum, 1877 to 1902. In 1877, the Victorian Infant Asylum was founded in Kew. In 1881, the asylum relocated to Berry Street in East Melbourne. By 1908, it was called the Foundling Hospital and Infants Home. It was non-denominational. 1956, blah, 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 blah. So we had these, this is in Australia, we had these, infant, asylums, foundling homes, and this one, like you can see, this one went up to 1975. And this is what's going on, guys. They're displacing people and children, and they're still doing it. This is what immigration is. This is why some countries are third world countries, and they're just left to, sort of downward spiral into poverty, to make people want to leave them so they can get them and bring them to other countries. And it happens with jobs as well. With corporate jobs, they often, once you get to a certain rank, they start sending you, around the world to different places to live, to do different jobs, and they just love mixing up the population and just not letting people get settled and build proper communities based on, strong ties, like generational ties. It's just all, throw people around and create division. Children shipped off like baby convicts to Australia. Children in institutions in Northern Ireland were exported to Australia like baby convicts, a witnesses told a public inquiry. The Sisters of Nazareth Order of Catholic Nuns was responsible for the removal of 111 child migrants aged as young as 5 before and after the Second World War. So this was going up into the 40s as well, guys. They were still doing this stuff. Child migration to Australia. Fact sheet 124. Encouragement for child migration. In the years following World War II, a popular immigration slogan was, "The child, the best immigrant." They constituted a particularly attractive category of migrant because they were seen to assimilate more easily, were more adaptable. No crap, their kids, oh my god, had a long working life ahead of them. What? And and could be cheaply housed in dormitory style accommodation. I mean, this is just, guys, this is slave labour with our kids. Between 1947 and 1953, over 3,200 children migrated to Australia under approved schemes. Okay, 47 and 53, guys. This is, after the war. This is not 1900 or the 1800s. 3,200 kids. About 100 of these children were Maltese, while the remainder came from the UK. Other European countries were asked if they would participate. They said no. There were over 30 homes approved by the Commonwealth for housing the child migrants. Most of these were run by voluntary and religious organisations. Red light. It was not government policy to provide homes specifically for migrant children. However, the government did contribute towards the capital expenditure incurred by these organisations in setting up suitable homes. So basically the government paid for them to do it anyway. Both the Commonwealth and state governments contributed towards running costs. The governments of the UK and Malta also paid maintenance for their children that had immigrated. So this was going on, guys, still. I mean, and there's still stuff coming out that it was going up into the 70s. So yeah, just that's pretty much what I wanted to show you, is that this is a history of children and displaced people being rounded up, treated as criminals, convicted by, false fiction, maritime law, and sent off to countries to repopulate the countries that were more devastated at the time. And it's still going on today with migration, and it's now being used more for division, to put, one, society or, religion, race, whatever against another. And the funny thing is that these people think they know their history and where they come from, but it's becoming more apparent that this was all taught to us in the last 2 or 3 generations, and it's still going on, guys, and it's still going on. And yeah, today is the 22nd of March 2019, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the world. Shootings in New Zealand, gun control, flooding in Dakota in the US, flooding in Queensland in Australia, lots of weird stuff, and it's not being televised, guys. We're not hearing about a lot of this stuff. Like, you might hear 1 or maybe 2 of these stories, but there's so much going on at the moment, and it's just not being televised. So yeah, heads up, like I said, we're in the middle of this. I used to think, sort of why things happen so quickly and why history just didn't really kind of make sense, because, as we all knew, after the Industrial Revolution, everything was just suddenly, lumped upon us, and we all wondered where it all come from. And now we know, but what we don't know is how much tech they really have and what's really going on. Are they manipulating weather and stuff like this? So just eyes open, guys. There's lots and lots of stuff going on, apart from the fact that Facebook and YouTube are shutting down accounts left, right and centre. They're, just, completely censoring free speech. So heads up, guys. I hope you like this video. I just rambled a bit, but that was the story. Children have been sent to Australia since the first fleet, and they were still being sent, as far as we know, up to the 70s. And I mean, we know it's child trafficking still goes on, guys. This is what's going on. This is the agenda. So time to change things. Hope you like this video. Please leave me a comment, like, subscribe, and share if you like this content. And as always, guys, be autodidactic, because self-education is the way forward.
Remember, in the end, nobody wins unless everybody wins.
Hi guys, how you going? It's Cambell here from Autodidactic Channel, and as always, guys, you want to be autodidactic because it means to be self-educated, and you want to be self-educated because you do not want to be learning what these guys are trying to teach us, believe me. Okay, thanks for tuning in, guys. Today's video is on the World's Fair in Sydney. Yesterday I did one on the World's Fair in Melbourne. This is the World's Fair in Sydney. It was actually called the Sydney Exhibition, but it's recognised as a World's Fair. And what we are looking at here is called the Garden Palace. Now, this is a massive structure, as you can see, and the official narrative says that it was built in 8 months. Alright, so we're going to investigate this one today, guys, so stay tuned. Okay, guys, so here we go, the Sydney International Exhibition. Okay, so it was in 1879, and it was the first World's Fair in the Southern Hemisphere, so it was actually classified as a World's Fair by the organisation behind them that tells them that yes, they are a World's Fair, whatever they do. After being granted governance in 1850s, the Australian colonies Victoria and New South Wales saw a steady economic growth as a result of the discovery, exploration of gold reserves. After 20 years, proposals were made to organise an exhibition modelled on the Great Exhibitions of Europe, with an aim to promote commerce, industry, along with art, science and education In 1879, Melbourne filed the plan to Parliament. However, Sydney wanted to be the first and managed to organise an exhibition in record time. So there we go. The Sydney International Exhibition opened in the autumn of 1879, but it wasn't really universal and therefore not officially recognised by the Bureau of International Expositions. Melbourne decided to start their exhibition shortly after the one in Sydney, and so participants could transport their exhibits during the winter of 1880. After the exhibitions, many of the exhibits were selected to be on display in the Technological, Industrial and Sanitary Museum, now the Powerhouse Museum. The Garden Palace itself was used by the government until a fire destroyed it in 1882. So, okay, this is the Garden Palace. Excuse me, the Garden Palace, which was, as I'm going to show you, it's an amazing structure. But it was built, the official narratives tell us it was built in 8 months. Yes, 8 months. Okay, so now, as you can see here, the main feature of Sydney exhibition was an ornate building, the Garden Palace, which was over 244 metres long and had a floor space of over 112,000 metres. So for people in the US and so, it's about 3 times that in feet. So, over sort of 330,000 feet. Designed by the colonial architect James Barnett, the building included 4.5 million feet of timber, 2.5 million bricks and 243 tonnes of galvanised corrugated iron, all of which was lost when the Garden Palace was destroyed by fire, as they all are, guys, in 1882. Okay, and so yeah, there's a lot of materials used to build this building. I just found this interesting. This is Unpacking the French Trophy, Sydney International Exhibition, Australian illustration, 1879. These are people who are unpacking the exhibition. They all look to be, or half of them look to be Chinese, these people maybe, I'm not sure. But yeah, they're unpacking. So we're supposed to think that like France is sending through all these antiques and stuff that we can display. I mean, that they could display at their exhibition. And this is sort of what one angle I want to get into is, with all these World's Fairs across the world, what are they for and what are they doing? It seems, sorry, where am I here? Sorry guys, I just refreshed that. Looks like I've lost my page. Here we go. Garden Palace, the beauty time forgot. And that's the building there, guys. You can see, look at this huge dome. Sorry, my computer's resetting. Okay, so you can see this huge dome and all the turrets and structures and flags and everything. And this is the Daily Telegraph's, and the gallery is loading. Let's begin it here. Okay, so, sorry guys. Sydney's Garden stood for just 3 years, from 1879 to 1882. Let's go, hopefully it's loaded. This is just a map of the actual size of the grounds. This is the building, the Garden Palace. There's some more buildings down here. But yeah, that's a great chunk of land. Next picture here is a construction picture, guys. So this is what I wanted to show you. Okay, so this is the construction of the palace for the international exhibition was big news around the nation. Illustration, because it's not a photo or anything, it's an illustration from the Australian sketcher, from the Australian. I don't know who the Australasian sketcher is, but yeah, so this is what we're told is a construction picture. As you can see, It doesn't look like there's many workers around. There's a bit of a horse and cart going by, but that's on a road. There's no construction happening. There's no excuse me. There's no like stone, brick, wood. There's no piles of supplies. That's the word. So there's no supplies anywhere. So what are they building this thing with? And as you can see, there's people just wandering around everywhere on the streets. This statue is already built and it's set apart from the building. And we're told this is a construction illustration. I would say that's fiction. You can make up your own mind, and I will show you some information to let you know why I think that is fiction. And here is a second one that is also a construction of the Garden Palace 1879, designed by James Barnett. The building was put up in only 8 months at a cost of £191,800. In only 8 months. You've said that twice. As you can see in this, apart from the fall of the land, which means that this was not a level. It wasn't a level piece of land, guys. Look at this. If you're going to build a building of that magnitude, you need a solid foundation, and a solid foundation, that means you need at least to start with a level piece of land. But as you can see, that's not level at all. And yeah, we've got everything drawn as wood here. So as you saw before, he needed, to build this. They were looking at, it was 4.5 million feet of timber, 2.5 million bricks, and 243 tons of galvanized iron. Okay, so what do we have here? Sorry guys, my computer's a little bit slow tonight. This is the Garden Palace. Okay, this is just a bit more on the Garden Palace. Basically says everything we've already seen. 1879, building 3 years, blah 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 blah. But I just see that's what we get. This is the whole page. So there's not much information. There's nothing about the construction plans, who built it, how it was built, anything. We receive silly pictures like this. I've got this in another. I'll show you this later. But as you can see, the levels. 2-story here, 1-story here. That's completely different. So yeah, there's no information on this. I did a lot of searching, and it's just really hard to find anything on how they built this, where the stuff came from, who built it, how it was constructed. We always get an architect's name, and that's it. But there's never any architect's drawings. Excuse me. So this is the Garden Palace was built from Oregon timber shipped in from the USA. It took 8 months to build, with 200 men working the first round clock shifts, even by arc light at night. The cruciform-shaped building stretched 800 feet north-south and 500 feet east to west, intersected by a huge 31-foot diameter dome. So they're telling us that they have imported from the US, it was 4 million feet of timber. That's what they've imported. They've brought it in by ship. This is in 1879, guys. We're talking sail ships. Really? That does not make sense at all. Really? They've imported that all from Oregon timber shipped in from the USA. Pictures of the building, and as they're telling us, so this story is there to tell us that it was built from wood, because as you will see, they tell us it was destroyed by fire. It was razed to the ground, like so many of these ancient masterpieces, old world masterpieces. They're all just razed to the ground, especially from the world fairs. But you can see see this, and they're telling us that what they're trying to tell us is the same as what they tell us, for Boston and Chicago and all these other world fairs, that they're basically a wooden facade, you know, a wooden structure with a brick and stone facade. And they were just built to be temporary buildings. But I mean, look at that thing. Here it is again. Here's of course some carts that obviously brought all that, you know, timber and rock and brick and iron, and not to mention the glass, guys. Not to mention the glass. That's it in the background there. Here we go, some old photos. I mean, it just looks like it's a palace, like they call it. It's a garden palace. Another picture here. This is said to be the dome being constructed. This, I don't know, this bit especially. This looks like it's been altered to sort of look like an old photo, but even if not, if this is a photo, it's just all it really shows is that they're redoing something to the dome, recovering it. Here's some more pictures. Okay, sorry guys, just got interrupted. So yeah, this is the site. I mean, you can see how massive that building is compared. I mean, this, you know, here looks like a two-story building, and this just is insanely big, you know, compared with everything around it. Built in 8 months, guys. Here's some more shots. Nice obelisk here. It's just a big panorama shot of the whole thing. As you can see, of course, there's antennas on top of all these turret type structures. They put flags on them all. This is what's still standing today. These are just the front gates and one of the statues. This is inside, and as you can see, look at this architecture. And you know, a lot of this, you know, looks like it could be wood. Who knows? But I mean, you know, they've brought in all this wood from America. You know, millions of feet of wood. And I mean, really? And then who's put it all together? Who's built it? And, you know, who made the nails and the bolts and things? Now these pictures here, guys, like this is said to be a statue of Queen Victoria. As you can see, nice stone, there's all stone around it. You know, it looks like it's, you know, it's coming up from the floor, the floor below this. By the looks of it, you can see there's a hole there. So who knows how big this was and what it was, and had they just put this on the top of it. But when you start to look at what these exhibitions were, guys, I mean, apart from the fact there's no one in here, and they say this was a really successful exhibition with 1.3 million people coming through it. In all these photos, there's no one in them. It just looks like they're displaying stuff. What I'm thinking is this is just stuff they've found, and they've, you know, procured from all the buildings that they've found after the devastation, and they're just putting it on display. I mean, look at it all. It's just rows of it, and it's just all this stuff. And lamps and God knows what. This is the dome. I mean, this looks to me like steel. It may not be, but it looks like steel. And they did say there was a lot of steel used, so I'd say this is steel. So how are they making that? Who made it? Where did it come from? Here's some pictures. And this is this site is called Sydney Architecture, by the way. And these are the architecture pictures we get. It's basically the same picture, once it's in black and white. And as you can see, look at the height difference from here. That's the level there. We've got a whole nother level underneath here. Same in this, because it's just a copy. Some more drawings. There's a drawing by the looks of it, lots of painting. Lots of people sort of walking into this amazing building. And here, this is the fire. There's only one, you know, again, painting of the fire. And this one too. Another painting. Okay, so let's get into this. So, the main feature of the Sydney exhibition was an ornate building, the Garden Palace, which was over 244 metres long and had a floor space, excuse me, of 112,000 square metres. Designed by the colonial architect, blah blah blah, took this many bricks and this much iron. So we know that the wood was shipped in from the USA, they're telling us. So what about the bricks? Where did the bricks come from? Because what did he have? It was 2.5 million bricks, and all put up in 8 months, guys. The industrial development in the early 1840s, there was little to suggest that the area was about to be transformed into an industrial conurbation. I don't know what that word is. As brickmasters trundled their families and chateaux along the new town's King Street in search of the new El Dorado. The only indicators of industry was the presence of tanneries, leatherworks, banks on the She-Oak. So basically in the 1840s there was no brickworks. As we go down here, beneath the thin layer of surface days, the early pioneers soon discovered deep bands of prime brick-making shales belonging to the Winnemata group, the brickmakers' equivalent of gold. Shale, which has the appearance of slate, must be crushed and ground into dirt before it can be pressed into bricks. So they found this, and then it says down here, more than a century passed before the houses again encroached on the brick. Hang on, sorry, that's the wrong bit. Let me read this. For the more prosperous and entrepreneurial brickmakers of the St. Peter's, Markville, Temple district, it was only towards the end of the 19th century, with the formation of the Limited Liabilities Company, that sufficient investment capital enabled production units to become large enough to meet the demand. Okay, so it was only towards the end of the 19th century, so towards the end of the 1800s was when the brick industry was able to actually meet the demand of the growing colony. This is what they're telling us. And then when they say that, they're talking about building houses, public buildings, all this kind of stuff, infrastructure. But you know, in 1879, these people they just got 2.5 million bricks. So unsurprisingly, many family businesses failed, and the ownership of brick firms was gradually concentrated into the hands of relatively few companies. The transition, which took nearly a century, was spurred by short-term fluctuations in the trade cycle and catastrophic depressions in the 1840s and the 1890s. So this was built, 1879. So there was depressions in the brick industry, and that would have been in the middle. But even up here, it says that until the end of the 19th century, they didn't even have enough bricks. So where did the bricks come from? 2.5 million of them. Okay, and what else do we see here? What else do we see? Sorry, that's the wrong page. 243 tons of galvanized corrugated iron. Okay, so again, I've searched and searched for the source of this iron and have found nothing, but I did find this. Now, this is the history of steel manufacturing in Australia by Steelforce. Okay, so steel manufacturing in Australia has had a checkered history following the discovery of deposits of iron at Iron Knob in South Australia in 1840. The industry had an inauspicious start, with several unsuccessful attempts to produce pig iron from steel in South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales and Tasmania. Because of poor quality iron ore and coke, as well as inadequate technical expertise, the local product could not compete with the steel imported from Britain, and by the late 1870s, all of the Australian ironworks had been abandoned. Okay, so this building, the Garden Palace, was built in 1879. Okay, and it needed 243 tons of galvanized corrugated iron. But as we see here, by the late 1870s, all of Australian ironworks had been abandoned. So this was built literally as the industry was collapsing, but they managed to get all the iron they needed. Okay, so things are not adding up here, guys. So this is what I wanted to show you. We see these pictures, you know, of construction. Okay, wood frames and that. This isn't a photo, by the way. This, you can see the signature down here. This is a drawing or a lithograph or something. And, you know, this construction photo here as well. But, you know, these are drawings. Okay, this is fiction, because when you look at the facts, they cannot explain where the materials came from. And again, look at those sites. There's no materials there. There's no, you know, there's no work site. It's just this drawing of an abandoned, you know, there might be a few bits of wood here or something by the looks of it, but seriously? This was built by guys, just, you know, what, lots of people from Sydney, which was, you know, still less than 100 years old from colonisation. I think the, you know, the population, all I could find out was in 1840 it was about 40,000, and by I think it was 10, it had hit 1 million. So 1880, I mean, you know, could conceivably say a quarter of 1 million people. But this is, to build this building, you would need a lot of people, and hand tools, guys, and horse and carts, and unpaved roads. How are they getting everything in here? How are they building? Who's building the nails? Who's building the hammers and the saws? You know, there's no iron industry. Where's all this stuff coming from? And that's kind of my point here. That we have these pictures. You know, look at the craftsmanship. How are they getting that up there? You would need cranes and things, but there's no cranes in any of those construction photos. Another painting. So this is just some more pictures of it, guys. This is just the gates of it. In the background, this is the statue of Queen Victoria, and again you can see all these massive, massive high roofs, all the ornate, you know, finishes. Again here, this is a drawing, and there's lots of people everywhere, and you can see they're all dressed up like they're the sort of, you know, the upper class gentry. You've got the top hats and the tails and stuff. But 1 million people, where are they all coming from? They're catching ships from, you know, Europe and taking 3 months to get here to see this, because it, you know, back in 1880 there wasn't that many people in the upper class in Australia. That's the thing. Well, that's a photo of someone sitting out there in a top hat. This is another photo of the interior, and this just looks so set up. They've got all these people. They did completely different clothing to what we see in the drawings. You know, like they just look like they're a collection of just, I don't know, just normal people, housewives or something, and they're just sitting around for this photo. Here's another one. You can see, like, this building was huge. This inside, they had different exhibitions. They had, like, for Victoria, they had a Tasmania one, they had a Spain. And again, it just looks like they've just, you know, it looks like these are the spoils of, you know, war. Like they've just gone out and they're just displaying everything that they've found, everything that's cool. That's the feeling I'm getting about these world fairs, is they were just to show off what they'd found. You know, technology, different, you know, arts, and, you know, there's obviously lots of paintings around, and, you know, pottery and things like that, and, you know, different types of antiquitech. Here we go again to the end here of these photos. This is when it was, after it was burnt down. Of course it burnt. I think that's part of this is why they tell us all the time that, you know, these buildings were built, basically they were wood structures with a facade. I mean, you know, facades don't stand like that for, you know, on their own for a start. But I think that's just part of the fiction, is they're telling us that they're basically wooden structures because so many of them they tell us burned down, but I don't think they've burnt down. They clearly look like they've been flattened by something, some kind of, you know, I don't know, weapon or something. Who knows? But basically the story just doesn't make sense. It just really doesn't make sense, guys. So here's a palace, garden palace. Some more, as you can see, not many people around in this photo. But I mean, look at the massive structures. Dirt roads, of course. Another shot. This is a drawing from inside, but as you can see, like, you know, like I said, got all these paintings and, you know, a few obelisky things, and these just looks like it's a display of what they've, you know, what they've acquired from what they've found, where they got to this country that was devastated, and whatever population was here that, you know, were the progenitors of this, you know, all this society and this artwork and this architecture. You know, they'd obviously been wiped out, or at least, you know, decimated to a large degree. And I mean, maybe, you know, all these stories about, you know, populations being wiped out by smallpox and diseases that people brought, maybe they weren't, you know, just the people we were told they were. Maybe they weren't just indigenous people. Maybe they were, I mean, indigenous people, but not the natives that we're told about. Maybe there were populations, and we hear the stories everywhere of, you know, Caucasians in countries all around the world, and, you know, and the same with, you know, Asians and blacks and or negroids or whatever you want to call them that's politically correct. But basically everyone, you know, the Native American Indians are basically the same as the people from Siberia. I mean, and lots of Asians. Yeah, so they've just been messing with populations, and who knows what they found when they got here, but it looks like they stole it all and put it on display and said, yeah, this is us. Here's your new history. Another shot of the statue, Queen Victoria. This is actually a newspaper clipping. As you can see, we've got a few drawings. And again, in the drawings, lots of people. In the photos, hardly any people. So again, there you go, a drawing, and look at all the people. They're everywhere, and again, they're all in, you know, their finery, their you know, tails with their top hats and their canes. Obviously all, you know, well-to-do people, but this is in 1879 in Sydney, Australia. This was, 25 years after they stopped bringing convicts in, so one generation. I mean, really, there weren't that many well-to-do people in Australia that probably to fit in this picture. And like I said before, what were they doing? Like taking a 6-month boat trip from Europe or somewhere to come here to see a few trinkets? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Again, just the scale of this thing in proportion to the rest of the landscape. I mean, look at it. 8 months. They built that in 8 months, they're telling us. Again, look at this. You know, statues, busts, and all these sort of trinkety things. It's an interesting symbol type thing. You know, just, it looks like they've just found all it, and, you know, it's like a museum, and this is what museums, I think, are, and we know they are. You look at the British Museum, it's full of, you know, the stuff from ancient Egypt. So is that what museums are? Is this how they started, that they were literally collecting all the old world art and you know, things that they were making, and antiquitech and other items, and displaying them as their own? And then, because this building actually did turn into, after the World's Fair, for the couple of years that it was still standing before they burnt it or destroyed it, it was a museum. And they say they lost, you know, they say the main thing that they lost in the fire not all this stuff. What they lost was the native Aboriginal collection. So basically, the stuff they didn't want us to see, I guess. Here again, it's just collections. I've got pianos here. I mean, what are we to think, that they're just bringing these in from all over the world, or what? There's suddenly a piano making industry in Australia. It's pretty ridiculous when you really start to think about it. Get it in context. Horse and buggy, photo, no people, dirt road. Now this is a good shot. This is the building in the background, and as you can see here, this is what they were building. Wooden little structures, 1 story high. But, you know, these are the outbuildings, but we're supposed to believe they built this in 8 months, and then all they could come up with for some outbuildings were these wooden structures. There's another drawing. That's a very nice one. Obviously it's not a photo, but you can just see the scale of it. And again, notice, you know, the landline there. Another drawing position. Lots of people. Really nice drawing of the building. So it's like back then they couldn't hide it because people had seen it, so they turned it into, oh, this big story. Yeah, I was built for an exhibition. Oh, look at these pictures with all these people. Here's another photo. I mean, look at that thing, guys. It looks like what it's called. It looks like a palace. I mean, that would, you know, you can see that on any major river in any major European capital, or the White House. Again, just these displays, guys. I mean, it looks like like the stuff they've just found. And again, this is a photo, and there's no people. Again, this looks. This looks like a drawing. I'm pretty sure it's a drawing. You can see the grandeur of it, all the art, all the finishes. This is the Tasmanian exhibition. So what is this? The stuff they found in Tasmania and brought it up. Let's see Victoria down here. I mean, is this what they're displaying? All the stuff they found in these, you know, devastated and abandoned buildings and cities, towns. Just don't know. See here, Adelaide, South Australia. So there must have been an Adelaide one as well. Oops. Sorry, computer's being a little bit silly. Here we go. This is another drawing, but again, it shows you that what's on display is just all this stuff. All this stuff. Just stuff. These have got little statues and things. I mean, it's very bizarre. Again, this is a photo. There's no one in it. You can see this is Rome. We've got statues, busts, Roman type stuff. Where did it all come from? Again, did they ship it in from Rome? Did Rome just decide to, donate all this stuff to Australia? It doesn't make sense. Doesn't sound right. New Zealand exhibit, and again, there's just rows and rows of just all this stuff. Where did it all come from? Seen that one. Yeah, another one. Just, cabinets full of bits and pieces. I don't know, jewelry, who knows what, types of finery. This little statue thing in the background. Victorian court. A drawing, so there's people in it. I don't know, pictures on the wall, old world furniture. Okay, so this is a drawing again, so it's full of people, and this is the floor below that statue of Queen Victoria, and it's this there's obviously a fountain with water coming out, but this doesn't seem to match what we saw, what was above. So was this whole bit added? Who knows? But again, because the drawing it's full of people, but the photos are here's a photo, empty. But again, just these displays of stuff. It's like, the first museum kind of thing. Look what we found. The Victorian Court Sydney International Exhibition from the Illustrated Australian News, 31st October 1879. Drawing, so it's got some people in it. And again, it's just statues. I don't know what this is, some kind of bottles or something. Is that rope? I don't know. Pictures, mirrors. What is this stuff? Alright guys, so that's it. So I just wanted to show you that. I did a video yesterday on the Melbourne World's Fair. This was Sydney, this was a year earlier than Melbourne. And as you can see, it just doesn't make sense. We saw those construction photos, but as I showed you, the materials they say they need, they just weren't available. And the wood, bringing that much wood in on ship, that would take months. And another thing is, it was built in 8 months. And basically, if you look at Wikipedia, it says that they basically came up with it and put the submission in sort of 8 months before whatever the Sydney exhibition opened in the autumn of 1879. But after 20 years, proposals were made for organising an extension modelled on the great exhibitions of Europe with an aim to promote commerce and industry along with art science. In 1879, Melbourne filed a plan to the Parliament. However, Sydney wanted to be the first. So this is in 1879, and this exhibition was in 1879. So the Garden Palace was finished and completed in 1879. So they say 8 months, but if the wood came from America, you've got to take another few months off, don't you? Because that wood's got to, and that's if the wood was sitting there ready to just throw on a ship. You're talking, from the Americas to Australia in the 1880s. I don't know. What, 5-6 months maybe less. I don't know, but definitely. It just doesn't make sense. And as you saw, the steel industry was non-existent. It had shut down pretty much. There wasn't enough bricks even to build the colony for the infrastructure and housing that they needed. But this guy wanted they decided to build this building, and they just magically got 4.5 million feet of timber shipped in from the Americas, 2.5 million bricks when there weren't enough for the colony to keep expanding as it needed, and 243 tonnes of galvanised corrugated iron when the iron industry in Australia at the time was literally shutting down, and it was dead by 1880. So I'll leave it up to you guys. What do you think of those construction photos? Do you think that they're real, or are they just fiction? Because none of them are photos; they're all drawings. So, but again, I hope I showed you some evidence that that what they're telling us is not true. It's false. They're making stuff up and they're putting out. It's very 1984, isn't it? They hide the truth, they make it up, put it out there, and gradually over time they just change the narrative, change the story, and change what people believe until the past disappears, and that's what they're trying to do. But as you can see, their stories do not make sense. They are complete fiction.
Hi guys, how you going? Cambell here from Autodidactic Channel. Now normally I would say I hope you're having an amazing day, but I actually went and met up with someone on the weekend, Malcolm Canning, and he let me know that a maze is something that you get stuck in and you run around banging your head into walls. So I don't want to wish you that. So today I'm going to wish you a fabulous day, and I'm going to have to rethink. Malcolm, you've stuffed up my intro. So if you've got any suggestions of what kind of day I should wish you, leave them in the comments. Alright, so Here we go. Today I wanted to have a look at Melbourne, and this picture in front of us is actually a picture of Melbourne. And as you can see, we've just got this massive, huge Tartarian cathedral, massive dome here, definitely old world architecture. Another big building here, we've got spires, towers, and all this stuff in Melbourne. Now, I used to live in Melbourne. I guess, I'm not sure what bridge this is, the Yarra, across the Yarra. But I don't remember it looking like this. I'll show the site that I got this from. All it says about this picture is the Melbourne skyline. So I don't really have a date with it. So yeah, I wanted to have a look at Melbourne today, and specifically Collins Street in Melbourne. So let's jump into this. So to start with, I just wanted to get a bit of background on Melbourne, because as we know, Australia is a fairly new country. The story goes, we know it was discovered by the Dutch before Cook, but they say Cook, 1788, landed, the first fleet, 1788, and it was as a convict colony, and then, the first sort of colonies happened pretty quickly. And then over the next 50 years, we suddenly had all these cities, Melbourne, Sydney, a few other ones around, a lot of big country towns as well with big buildings in them. And this all happened in a very short time, where there was no industry really in the country, there was no skilled labour, and there was really no necessity, no need for the buildings they built. Okay, so Melbourne, city of Melbourne. And this starts off, the City of Melbourne respectfully acknowledge that it is located on the traditional land of the Kulin Nation. This special place is now known by its European name of Melbourne. I find that paragraph very disrespectful. It's just like, yeah, we came, we stole, we took all your stuff, and we'll just, yeah, we acknowledge you were here, but we're not changing the name, we're just taking it. Bugger off. Today, Melbourne is one of the great multicultural cities of the world and is a significant meeting place for the Wurundjeri, Boonwurrung and Torgorong, Djururrung, sorry guys, and Wetherong, which make up the Kulin Nation. Melbourne has always been an important meeting place and location for events of social, education, sporting and cultural significance. Melbourne is the capital of Victoria, the home of close to 4 million people. Melbourne was founded on the Yarra River in 1835, after an abortive bid in 1803 to establish a settlement inside the Port Phillip Bay heads near Sorrento. So there you go. It was established in 1835, Australia, and literally we're talking the first ship, the first ships rocked up here, we're told, 1788. So we're told all that was here was there was nothing here, but all that was here was what they brought with them. So there was a few fleets, obviously, and then when more people came over, they started to colonise. They brought convicts in until the 1850s. But who built all these cities and towns and everything? And that's what we're going to have a look at. So 35 years. So, it's less than 50 years after the first boat landed. They've started Melbourne, and it goes down here. Like most Australian colonies, the original reason for the British occupation of Victoria was the fear of possible French settlement. So they were trying to get it before the French got it, they're saying. By the end of the 18th century, the coast had been explored extensively by both British and French adventurers. Reacting to a perceived French threat, Lieutenant David Collins, accompanied by a party comprising both convicts and free settlers, landed on the shores of Port Phillip Bay near Sorrento in October 1803, and a short-lived colony was established. So that was like 15 years after they landed. Instead of establishing the colony that they've got and trying to get a good, they're running around setting up colonies everywhere apparently. And then obviously Van Diemen's Land is Tasmania. So that's, you know, the story basically. So it's, I mean, it doesn't even say that it was set up for any reason, Melbourne. It's just, oh, just so the French don't get it. I mean, where do all the people come from that they were setting up all these cities with to beat the French? Anyway, this is Collins Street in Melbourne. Now, Collins Street is one of the streets in the city. As you can see, this is a picture. What do you reckon? So these, you know, these buildings could literally be anywhere in the world. Look at this one. Oh, whoops, how do we do that? Look at this one at the end. Oh, see, these look like cathedral windows. They've got like a shape, and that's a common shape, that sort of 5-hole circle shape thing. You see that a lot. I mean, look at this. We've just got the spires and the towers on it. On this one too, you know, the arched windows, just, you know, the amazing architecture. And this is what they were building, guys. These are the first kind of these are the oldest buildings in Melbourne. This is what they were building back in the 1840s and 50s, apparently. I mean, look at this stuff. Where did all the bricks come from? Where did the cement come from? Where did the render come from? Where did the paint come from? Where did the glass come from? Where did the steel come from? Where did the skilled labour come from? And where did the need come from? I mean, it's a bit excessive, isn't it? So Collins Street is a major street in the centre of Melbourne, Victoria. In Australia, it was laid out for it was laid out in the first survey of Melbourne, the original 1837 Hoddy grid, and soon became the most desirable address in the city. Collins Street was named after Lieutenant Governor of Tasmania, David Collins, who led a group of settlers in establishing a short-lived settlement at Sorrento. The eastern end of Collins Street has been known colloquially as the Paris End since the 1950s due to its numerous heritage buildings, old street trees, high-end shopping boutiques, and as a location for the first sidewalk cafes in the city. Blocks further west, centred around Queen Street, etc. As laid out by the surveyors, it was exactly 1 mile in length and 1.5 chains, or 30 metres wide. The street was named for the Lieutenant Governor, Collins, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's really all they're saying. The first major street improvements were carried out in the 1850s. Including bluestone curbs, gutters, and introduction of gas lighting in 1855. The first street trees were elms planted in 1875. A cable tram line was laid in 1886 and was operational for less than 50 years, of course, until 1930 when it was electrified. What? Oh, okay, so they changed it from a cable tram, okay, in the 30s. And then it just goes on. But what I really want to show you is just this Collins Street. Now this is a drawing. This is supposed to be Collins Street basically back in the day. I'm not sure what the date on that. Do they have a date? I think that wasn't pretty much its settlement. Yeah, 1839. So now this is 4 years after settlement. And remember, there was no reason to settle there. It was just so that the French couldn't. And look how built out it is. We've got 2-story buildings here, and that's just in a couple of years. And down here we have a few more pictures, and as it's just covered this place. Now here's a nice Tartarian building here. This is the facade of the Collins Street Bank of New South Wales. It was relocated to become the University of Melbourne Commerce Building. There you go. And some old buildings, but let's have a look. This is where I got this picture of Melbourne skyline. And as you see, it just says Melbourne skyline. We're on victorianplaces.com. That was a postcard apparently. Now, got some old pictures of Melbourne down here. These are all around Collins Street. Look at these 2 big towers here. Look at this building. This sort of tower just sort of pops off the side and it just goes up with this massive antenna on it. A tram, so I'm not sure what date here is, but yeah, interesting pick, that one. And this just shows us a lot of, you know, how Melbourne is actually just full of stuff like this. This is Burke Street, back in the, what, 50s probably. And again, you can just see the unnecessary size of this building. Look, this is the people here, and that's the doorway. Now, it looks like there's steps going up, but even if you get this person up here, they're like in here somewhere. This is a huge doorway, and so these are huge levels. And so what they've done, they've built a building that could have been 5 levels, and it's only 3. You know, why would you do that in a city that's new, and you're just trying to get established? St. Paul's Cathedral, and look, this has still got all these, you know, whatever they are, the little bits that stick out of the terracotta masonry bits that look very antiquitechy. They've got bits on the top here. You know, they've got look at this tower. And again, look at the huge size of it. And of course it is steps up to it. And just people looking tiny next to this massive building. And this here, see this shape here? This is what I was pointing out before. We see a lot of these types of things with the circles in them, the shapes. I was on that building. But yeah, so a lot of very old Tartarian looking stuff in Melbourne. Now this is 1835, so this is supposed to be, this is John Batman, he's one of the founders of Melbourne, meeting the local Aboriginals apparently. So here in this picture they're saying there was nothing at all in Melbourne in 1835, as you can see, nothing there. This is 4 years later, and you can see streets, houses everywhere, all completed, all up and down, no industry. You know, where did all the wood, all the bricks, everything come? I mean, obviously wood, you can cut down trees, but you then need to mill it. You need saws, you need nails, you know, screws, all these things, levels, you know. So this is in 4 years, what they've done. Okay, so here are some pictures. This, I've just put in Collins Street 1850. Okay, so you saw what it looked like in 1835. This is 1902, this photo. And look at that. Look at that building. Look at this. And that's not even ground. It's sitting on top of another building. Massive dome here. Big towers, archways, and of course look at the size of the people compared to these doorways. These are, we're told these are the first buildings that were built in Melbourne. Brand new colony, no industry, no skilled labour, convicts, and they're just going out, you know, settling and just, you know, founding, as they call it, you know, finding cities, and telling us that they just built architecture like this. I mean, this is the story we're given. Quite ridiculous. Now this is, again, this is Collins Street. Don't have a, I think this one might have a date on it. Collins Street, no. But as you can see, it's pre-car. It's 1880s or something. Again, look, just, you know, buildings that should not be there. They're just Tartarian. Is that a flag? And does that look American? I don't know. The street lights, we see these street lights all over the world, all the same design. And again, you know, it's pretty tall. Yeah, it's just completely built out. And this is, you know, I'd say this is 1880s circa. So it's only, you know, 50 years after they literally turned up in a boat with a few people and a few convicts. 50 years they've got this. And this is, again, this is what it looks like. It's just everywhere. The whole place is completely built out. Look at this whole block. Got towers, the whole block going both ways. More towers down there. Got columns here. You know, it's the classic old world architecture, and of course it's giant sized. Again, look at this street, and this is just one street in Melbourne City. Again, there's no cars yet. Got the cable tram, we've got the horse and carts, and they've been building this stuff. Collins Street, circa 1900. Don't even have like sealed roads. And again, look at these two massive domes. Look at this, the front of this building. Why would you be doing this? Putting all this time and effort into building stuff that's not what you need. And they've got trees. They would be building one-story buildings out of wood. You know, that would be really all they would have the resources to do. But no, we get these big red brick and stone buildings, and look at this one down here. And of course, you know, this street light, and they say it everywhere, and then I don't know, it's sort of got one massive building here and here, and then the rest is sort of, I don't know, bits missing. So this is Spencer Street, this isn't Collins Street, this one, but again, no sealed roads. Just, you know, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Another one, you can just see this huge building. I'm not sure that that's Collins Street, we better go back. So yeah, this is all Collins Street. Big buildings everywhere. Look at this. I mean, is that not ridiculous? Look at the size of the people. As you can see, you know, that's being flooded out. This bottom story, and just the whole way up. I mean, look at this building. This skinny one in there in the middle, and just the whole way down. And look at this Antiquitect just popping up everywhere. You know, this amazing architecture, and then they go and paint this sign on the wall. But yeah, this is Melbourne, Australia, Collins Street. And look at it, it's just the whole thing. Completely built out in Tartarian old world architecture. This is Swanston Street, sorry, but you can see it's the same stuff. Now this is number 333 Collins Street. Interesting number. Look at this building next to it though. Look at the facade on that. But this one, now someone told me about, I think it was Malcolm Canning, I'm not sure. I think it was. And I do try and get to all your stuff, guys. I really do appreciate all the, you know, the tips and hints you leave me and all the photos and everything. And I try and get to them all, but I don't always remember who sent me what, because I do get a lot of stuff coming in. So whoever did send me this, 333 Collins, thank you. And what it was is, check out the dome inside this place. Look at this. And this is one of the early buildings in Melbourne. This is what they were building. This is what we're told. They were building this kind of stuff. You know, within 50 years of founding the city, they're throwing this up. Now, I've done other videos that look at the industry, you know, like the brick making industry and cement making and glass making, things like that, to see if it was even possible for them to do this. And as far as I can see, it wasn't. There was just not enough industry around to be creating everything they needed for this, and there wasn't the population, because to create that industry and to run it, and then to have all the people building it, all the people moving it, you know, shipping all the products and everything, selling it, the whole lot, that's a lot of people. When you're talking buildings like this, if you're talking a wooden shack, well, you don't really need any industry. But this, I mean, come on. And, you know, of course, we We can't build this stuff today. But, you know, a bunch of unskilled artisans and convicts could, apparently. And look at the size. See this guy walking through here? Look at the size of this building. Like, seriously. This roof in here is like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like 6, 7 stories high. So this is the dome at 333 Collins Street. There it is. And this dome's in the middle of the building by the looks of it, and then everything sort of comes off it. But I mean, what? I mean, how would people in Australia, in Melbourne in the 1850s even conceive of buildings like this? I mean, just look at it. And like I said before, you could pick this up and put it in any European city and it would look, you know, no one would know that it shouldn't be there. But I mean, because it should be there, because look at it. It's the same architecture all over the world. All right, now these are some pictures that were sent to me by Jared Krautsline through Facebook. So thank you very much, Jared. So these were sent to me, these pictures by Jared Krautsline via Facebook. So thank you, Jared. And these are all Collins Street in Melbourne. And as you can see, this building again, look at the doorways on this thing. And just look at the architecture. Big star up in the window here. Okay, and in this photo, this is what we get at the side of the buildings. And as you can see, this one here is, well, at least 2 stories down. A story here, another story here, and steps going up. So I'm not sure where this photo is taken from, what the vantage point is, but clearly you can see this is the level of the road up here. And this is a wall, and this is all underground. Well, not underground, but it's under the road level. Why is the question. And this is the mudflood that we talk about. You know, all these buildings that, you know, you do not build buildings under the ground level. Now this, they're telling us, was built, you know, all these buildings would have been late 1800s, 1850s to 1880s. So, you know, less than 150 years ago. And what do they think that the ground level just rose naturally this high? It's just it's silly. This building here, you can see the front of it, and you can see these windows going straight into the ground. And as you can see, this one here is smaller than this one here. Now look at the size of this building. How much do you reckon that would weigh? Huge solid brick or stone building with all the finishings. I mean, that would weigh a lot, thousands of tons. Now a building like that needs to be built on a flat foundation. Why would you be building this on a slant? You know, this is clearly higher here than it is here. And they've even had to put steps up to get into it because the lower level is buried. This is another old world building. Look at this, looks like a cathedral door, this one. Look at that. I've seen a couple of these before. There's a picture of one like this in one of the World's Fairs. I think it might be the Chicago one. It's got a huge door that's sort of like this laid in as it goes in. But again, old world building, you know, look at all this, you know, the facade and the artistry that's gone into it. All, you know, the same things we see everywhere. The curved, you know, windows, the intricate stuff, the triangles, porticos, and the windows going into the ground. And you can't see because of the van here, but there would be steps going up to that front level. And we see this a lot as well. See this doorway, they've halved it. They've put like a thing across here and filled it in to make it look smaller. So this is the thing. When did these, when were these buildings built? Here's another view. Clearly you can see the level of the ground, and this just goes straight down. So this is obviously, I'm not sure, the back of the building. They've cleared it out, but the front's just still buried. This is obviously a shot looking up at the roof that we could see in the last picture, this bit here. And look at that. I have no idea what that is. Some big thing going up here. No idea, but look at these cathedral windows everywhere. Again, see this doorway, see how they fill them in to make them look smaller. Yeah, I don't know what this is. Look at that. Another shot. Just showing. I mean, that's 2 stories. All red brick, old red brick. We've got the brick lintels in the archways that they do, and you see very thick walls. Old world buildings. Now, again, why would they be building this as the first buildings in a new city in a new country? It wasn't even a country; it was just a territory of England. And they didn't have the industry, they didn't have the bricks, they didn't have the labour, they didn't have the skilled labour, and they're building stuff like this and building them 2 stories underground. There's another shot. These are all from Kerrod. He's gone into Melbourne and taken some shots for us. Now, just trying to see what's going on here. Looks like there's a window there. I'm not sure, but and steps going up, so you can clearly see this is the level of the building. And it looks like this ground is rising as it goes to the back because there's stairs starting to go up here. Here's the front of that building again. Nice old buildings, aren't they? One doesn't look too far in the ground. This one, on the other hand, is right under the ground. Okay, I've got the steps going up here. Now they've obviously built a wall, I would say, on the inside, and it goes up above street level, and you can see all these windows clearly go down below the street level. So that must have been cleared out as well. And I mean, just look at this architecture. We see this kind of, I'm not sure what it's called, but this kind of facade everywhere. It looks like the pillars might have been stylized a bit there. And again, these are mostly, these kind of buildings are pretty much all red brick buildings, but they render them and they cover them in different different looking facades and renders so that they all look different, but underneath they're all the same. Here's that building again, and look at this. Look at these windows, like fully underground. And how much do you reckon this building would weigh? It's even bigger than the last one. Again, get me a builder that says that anyone would do that. I mean, yes, I know today they build car parks under buildings. I understand that, but these are not car parks. They're windows. This is another floor that's been built under the ground level. Or, as I believe, it was built on ground level, and some event has happened and has buried it. What that event is still up for grabs. We have lots of theories. Obviously, the first one was the mud flood. There's some kind of mud flood has happened, and we still see mud floods happening all around the world, and they bury buildings. But was there a worldwide one, and if so, what caused it? This is an old picture, pre-1900. This would be about 1880s again, and this again is Collins Street. And I mean, come on, again, look at this street pole with a light. These street lamps, we see them everywhere. Got big towers here, got big antennas all down here for some reason. Look at those. But just old world buildings, huge red brick, completely unnecessary. And this is, look at the whole street is built out both sides. Mud, not even a paved road, just a mud road, but they've built all this. And like I said, it's definitely pre-1900 because there's no cars or anything. It's just horses and carts. It looks 1880-ish, but just say it's 1900. And they've built all this in 70 years. I mean, and this is just one street. They built the rest of Melbourne too. So a little bit silly and just unnecessary. Like I said, if it's a new settlement, you would start off with small wood buildings and you would work your way up. And that's the story they tell us. That's what they say, the history line happened. That's what they say. Start with small things and they just got bigger and bigger and bigger, more intricate as they got more technology. Here's another shot. Now, I believe this is Collins Street. I think it's number 1, actually, Collins Street. Now, I'm not sure if this is Collins Street or I think this going this way is. You can see, look at this building. It's just not sitting flat. You can see the line along here. It's on a massive angle. 2 windows underground, and now these windows you'll find they're always symmetrical. They're always underneath the ones on top, the same shape, the same width, everything. Just going into the ground. Got 2 guys sitting here, like there's no one around, but look how much building. And this is another street. This isn't Collins Street. This is Collins Street. So this is all done in, you know, what, 50 years. The whole place was built out, and there's no one there. Here's another one of those street lamps. Another old shot. I believe this is looking down Collins Street the other way to the shot that we saw with the really big Tartarian buildings. They're all up here, and these are the towers that we could see in the distance. And this again, look, dirt roads. You know, it'd be around 1900, 1890 or something, and just completely built out. And you can see like the angles just on this wall here. Looks like it's all been flooded. Here we get back to some pictures of Kerrids. So just, I mean, you know, look at these old, now what does it say? Did that have a date on it? Does that say 1880? Can't really read it. But, you know, that'd be about right for a building date. And look at it, 50 years after they found the city of Melbourne, they're building this. And all of this. This is that other photo we saw before. I mean, just look at this. This is crazy. This is Melbourne, Australia, guys. It's not Europe. It's not Rome. It's not Greece. Look at that thing. I mean, look at the pillars. I mean, how... we could not do this today, and they want us to believe that they were doing this, you know, with unpaved roads. Looks like the people have arrived in this photo. But unpaved roads, you know, like, I mean, these people are in suits, you know, where are the workmen? These people are not workmen. And where's all the big carts that they can cart around, you know, rocks and bricks and glass and iron, long bits of wood and all this stuff they would need just for one building. But look at that street. That's just craziness. Big dome here. And it's just the whole way down. It just sort of blends out into nothing, into a nice vanilla sky. But, you know, you can kind of make stuff out going down there. And this looks like it's a more flatter area, and it looks like obviously they've got the hill there, so that's where the sort of mud flooded buildings are. But just, you know, ridiculous. Now this shot, and here we have another old shot. This isn't Collins Street, but this is Melbourne. And as you can see, it's all, again, built up, not as nice as Collins Street, the architecture. You can see here we've got columns and the little portico, the triangle thing on top. Like a little, what we're told is Roman looking buildings here. But as again, you can see in this one there's not really any people around, but it's just dirt roads. It's not the best contrast, but these are just the horse and carts. This is all they've got. It looks like a bit of rubbish around here too. This building actually looks like it's been burnt or something. And it's just got this. This is to hitch your horses up to or something, no doubt. But this is the kind of tech they had. There's nothing there, but they could build these buildings. And then they just paint a sign on it and say, yeah, see, we built it. Now it's like the architect, gosh, it's like, it's like the archaeologists and they find, these old megalithic monuments, and then to date them, they'll find a fire or something near them, and they'll find, they'll carbon date the burnt wood and go, oh yes, well it's only actually 1,000 years old, because obviously whoever started the fire built the whole thing. It's the same kind of concept that they're throwing at us. It's just, we didn't have the tech to do anything, but they get these buildings, they put their sign on it, and then they say, see, we built it. So this is on Collins Street, around 1900. This is Collins Street up here, but you can see everything's just completely built out. Everything. Look at that. And it's just, they're all, 3-4 story brick buildings, apart from obviously we've got cathedrals and towers popping up here and here and here, and more towers there. But just completely built out and all red brick. Now, where did all this red brick come from? Can you imagine how many bricks you would need just to build this one side of Collins Street? Then think about the whole rest of Melbourne. And this is what they're asking us to believe, but they can't show us, the brick foundries, the brick pits, and where they're making the bricks and everything, the kilns. I've looked into this, and the stuff that they have is just nowhere. They just could not produce the amount of stuff that they would need to build this. So this city was found. It wasn't founded, it was found. Now look at this. I'm not sure what that is. You can see all these wires, and there's another one here. So I think they are connected, and it could just be an early power pole. But I just haven't seen them looking like that before, especially going up on the top. And you can see how small the people are. Of course, we've got, whoops, right in there. It's giving away my good photo. Look at the size of this lamp. See this guy standing in front of it? That's big. But of course, I mean, just come on, look down that street. Look at pillars here. And these are the buildings. They want us to believe these are the buildings that they just built 50 years after they just turned up. New country, nothing at all. No industry, no nothing. Everything they had to bring via boat. So you can imagine, and this was, the Industrial Revolution had happened, but it was pre-electricity, steam engine, all that kind of stuff. And they built all this with convicts. Now this is from Carrot as well. This, what did he say next? I think he said it's next to the train station, the building next to the train station. But look at this. Look at that. Of course they've gone in and bricked up, and you can clearly see that's a different kind of brick. But look at that. I mean, what? There's no way that was built like that. How could you do it? What are people lying on their back and why? I mean, come on, that's a good one. Look at that. I think we've got a couple more. Here we go. And this is down, obviously you can see down in the train tracks. It's just filled in. So this building, this is obviously the back of it, is like half underground. It's got another story or something. I'm not sure if this is an add-on or what's going on here, but just look at that. And it's interesting that it's near the train tracks too. I mean, was that, I don't know, part of an old train setup, train rail system? This looks a bit like a tunnel, don't know. Now I think we've seen this picture. This guy sitting on his own. Spencer Street. Here's another shot just of Melbourne again. you know, circa 1900. Look at all these buildings everywhere. Nice big towers popping up everywhere. And you can see it's built out right out everywhere. It's still built out completely. I've got one dude down here on with his horse. Can't see any other people. Now see that looks like it might be wooden. So this actually looks like they might have gone and built in between these big brick buildings. Looks like they've built a couple of little wood or brick buildings, and that's what you would expect to see. Stuff like this, not like this. Not sure what's going on with that level there. Street, I don't know. But maybe it goes down and up again. Looks a bit weird, but yeah, just look at that. Completely built out. This is Swanston Street, 1860, guys, 1860. Okay, so they turned up in a boat, a couple of people and some convicts in 1835. This is 25 years later. Look at this building. You may even look at this one. That looks like it's a stone building, I'm not sure. Could be a render of some kind, but brick, double story. I mean, and you can see them going off into the background. Here as well, and of course just dirt roads. Because roads would be the last thing you would do, right? If you wanted to build a building, you wouldn't, you know, make a nice road so you could actually get the materials there. And look at the carts they've got to bring all the products and materials to build these kind of buildings. 1860 Melbourne. Look at that. And they, you know, they just had bricks to burn. They had so many left over, they just built a big brick wall. Why not? Why not indeed? All right, now that is the end of the photo show. So there you go, guys. What do you think? Melbourne just completely built out. You know, 25 years after it was discovered, settled, found. And obviously a lot of mudflood buildings and a lot of really nice old world architecture too. So the question is, you know, why are half the buildings sunk? Obviously we have our theories of that, the mudflood. And if history is true, if you believe the story, how did they do this? Like I've been saying, where did the materials come from? How were they transporting them on dirt roads? Where were the skilled labourers coming from? Where was just the population in general coming from? Because like I mentioned, you would need, you know, the industries, and you would need so many different industries. You would need the brick industry, the mortar and cement industry, the glass industry, the steel industry, you know, the wood industry, you know, and then you would need to be able to train all these people, and you'd need to be making the tools that they use. And just things like, you know, nails and screws and things. Like you need a lot of stuff to build, you know, buildings like this. So the general narrative does not make sense. Hi guys, how you going? Cambell here from Didactic channel. Hope you are having an awesome day. And today I just want to revisit Melbourne. I did a video on Melbourne, the impossible city, and this is a shot here of Swanston Street in Melbourne in 1860. And today I want to have a look at where all the materials for buildings like this one came from. Because this is 1860. Melbourne was founded in 1835, and that was, they're telling us literally there was nothing there in 1835. And 25 years later we have this, and this is just one of the streets. It looked like this everywhere, and of course there's just dirt roads. You know, it looks like we're going up a hill of mud here. I'm not sure what's going on there. Horse and buggies. You know, at this point obviously, well, there's not even trams or anything. There's no, you know, engines, no steam power around here, you know, steam engines for machinery. There's no hoists or cranes to get things up this high. So there's definitely a problem with, you know, the tools they had, but what about, where did all these bricks come from? You know, were they even making enough bricks in Victoria in 1860 to build even one of these buildings? But look at this, and this is just one street, and there's many more. So today we're going to have a look at the materials that built Melbourne, or maybe did not. Alright, let's get into this. Okay, so to start with, let's have a look at bricks, and this is just a search for brickworks in Melbourne, 1880. And this one comes up a lot. We're going to have a bit of a look at this. It's got some interesting things with it. This is the Brunswick brickworks, and there's some very strange stories. We'll get into it, but they basically tell us that they don't know what's going on. There's no, you know, they just don't know, and all the brickworks that are called brickworks are actually not. They're just making like tiles and you know, pipes and bits and pieces, but not bricks. It's very strange. And I've sort of looked around and I haven't been able to find that much information on who was making the bricks and where they came from. Like I said, we get pictures like this, you know, brickworks, and obviously when you're looking at Melbourne, there's just red brick everywhere. Here's a nice mud flooder for you. Look at that. Straight into the ground, and just look at the amount of bricks, you know, and this is all old, you know, old buildings. They're everywhere. Oh my God, is that in Melbourne? I don't think that's in Melbourne. And this is 1884 or 1863. Hotel Windsor, big brick building. As you can see, brick building, cathedral here, and just completely built out. This is just covered in buildings. And they look like they're all brick. It's just the same scenario. 2-3-story brick buildings down the street. 1884. Okay, so where did all these bricks come from? This is Victorian heritage bricks, brickmakers and brickworks. Historical context. So Victoria has developed exponentially since European settlement. Originally, timber huts housed a small but growing population. A legacy of the gold rush of the 1850s was an oversupply of underemployed miners. The extensive basalt plains in Victoria were a fertile ground for stonemasons who built magnificent cities that we see in Victoria today. These masons could not keep up with the demand, as working basalt is a slow process. Brickmakers then filled this gap, and brickworks popped up all over the colony as the population grew affluent and wanted a better standard of housing. So that's an interesting first paragraph, just because they say that the extensive basalt plains of Victoria, fertile ground for stonemasons who built the magnificent cities we see in Victoria today in the 1850s. Okay, but what we see is brick buildings. We don't see basalt buildings. There's a couple, but not many. They're definitely not whole cities full of them. But then it says they couldn't keep up with the demand, so brickmakers came in. So who built the cities in Victoria? Brickmakers or the basalt stonemasons? This culture and industry heritage has largely been lost. The brick kilns are now gone, but the bricks remain. Indeed. They are everywhere. Australia is now, and has been for a long time, the world's largest per capita consumer of bricks. Nobody gives them a second thought. Many new arrivals in post-war Australia worked making bricks, so now we're in 1940s. Maybe one of your relatives was such a person. Almost nothing has been done in Victoria by the state government to record this history, except a half-hearted attempt in the early 1980s by the Victorian State Archaeological Survey. And they produced a PDF which basically says nothing about brick making. It's just ridiculous. I'll leave all these links so you can have a look at them, but this is what happens. Even half the bricks we use today smash like China teapots if you drop them from any height. Not like the old Victorian bricks. Oh no, they knew how to build houses in those days. Okay, so right there it says that the old world bricks are completely different to the ones that we have, post-war. So this is the first part of a three-part story of a business that continues today. The first was the Ballarat Pottery Works. The second was the Martin Stoneware Pipes. And finally, the third incarnation was Vit Clay. So this is talking about Ballarat Pottery Company. And it basically just had three different owners and three different names. But if you look down here, and this is talking about bricks, right? Brickworks, brickmakers, heritage bricks. There's nothing in here about bricks. At all. At all. This photography of Ballarat Pottery Works, and it comes down here. He had accepted an offer to work at the works in Brunswick, Victoria as a potter. So this is all about pottery. 1861, George Marks established his first Ballarat Pottery Works. Okay. And it says, with the help of 4 boys, they produced salt glazed drain pipes, chimney pots, and tiles. No bricks. Wheel-thrown jars, flower pots, saucers, water monkeys, bread pans, butter pots, ginger beer bottles, etc. But no bricks. The first building on the new site was a 2-story timber-framed construction, 47 feet long, and somehow it got rebuilt in brick. This wooden coal kiln was used to fire flower pots and chimney ornaments. No bricks. And you can go all the way through this, and there's not a mention of a brick. It's it's just ridiculous. The clay of the manufacturer for a rougher kind of ware, such as pipes, chimney pots. There's no bricks. Small-sized drain pipes. There's nothing. It's just ridiculous. And the best part is when you get to the bottom. In 1922, the old works were destroyed by fire. I mean, this is just, it's like they have a template somewhere and they just change a few words, because that says nothing about bricks. That's just ridiculous. And it tells you right here that they don't even know. Almost nothing has been done in Victoria by the state government to record this history. Alright, now this is heritage.victoria.gov. Early brickmaking in Victoria. The first Victorian bricks appear. They don't know. The first Victorian bricks appear to have been burnt on the south bank of the River Yarra near Prince's Bridge in Melbourne. From the 1850s, Victoria's brickmaking focus moved eastward, and Prahran briefly became the centre of the industry in Victoria. Brick production was fuelled by the growth of the city, with the industry drawing upon 2 large brick fields, one stretching from Brunswick through Northcote to Preston and another extending from Taronga to Nunawading. By 1860, 50 brickyards existed in Melbourne, with many more in outlying areas, producing bricks in simple clamp burnt kilns and open updraft and downdraft kilns. The first company to industrialise the brickmaking process in Australia was the Patent Brick and Tile Company, established by Jenkin Collier. The firm at its Brunswick site is thought to have been the first to introduce mechanised, continuous brickmaking. And again, it's thought to be that they're not even saying anything here. They're saying they don't know. This was achieved by the use of high output kilns, which operated to the principle of continuously burning around a circular tunnel, with waste heat being used to dry the green bricks. These kilns were first used in Europe in 1859, where they revolutionised the brickmaking process. And it says, first kiln constructed was in 1872. Production capacity had been augmented through the construction of the new elliptical kiln. The works was among the first to use steam-powered Bradley and Craven brick presses, which had not been economical in earlier small-scale productions. Now, I've got somewhere and it said the output was 20,000 a year, which is not a lot. So it sort of says, there was 50 brick makers here, but they were just using earthen
draft kilns, which, you can't do a lot. And then obviously some of them got updated and mechanized, but it doesn't really say a lot, does it? It says here, through the late 19th and through the late 19th and early 20th centuries, kilns proliferated throughout Victoria and the nation at large, with the kilns constructed at Brunswick in 1870, Taronga in 1909, Ballarat 1890, Nunawading 1910, Preston 1913. So there's really only one here, which was 1870, but this picture that we saw before is 10 years before that. 1870, this picture is 1860. 1860, oh gosh, what have I done? Oh my gosh. Sorry, these are all from the last video, but you can clearly see there's a 10-year, that was a built-out city with bricks in 1860, and they're saying first kilns were constructed in 1870. And this is Victorian government. Here's some shots of, this is apparently the brickworks today. He was said to have been adept in manufacturing, blah blah blah. The clay mill. Let's see if we can have a look at that. No, it's not going to let us. But we get these funny little pictures. The first company appeared in the directories in 1885, so we're way out of the time. We're 25 years after this. I'm just having a quick look if I can see the output. It must be on something else. But that's what we get. It's really just, they don't really know. They just tell us all this stuff. But I don't know where the bricks came from. And even the information they give us, it's too late. Like, it's 20 years after, or at least 10 years after this. We've got photos of the built-out cities that they say they started making bricks, on a sort of professional production scale. It's just mad. Books show that while in the 1880s brickworks were located on parts of Crown position, present brickworks in its position in 1891 in Box Hill. So these are dates that are way, way too late again. And we've got some old photos, but 1911, 1913, Standard Brick and Tile Company, 1920s. It's all after 1900. All of it. This is the Hoffman Brickworks, and this is an interesting picture. I'll have a look at that in a sec. And this really doesn't say much again at all. It just says Hoffman Brickworks was established on a 12-acre paddock in Brunswick in 1870. Again, too late. Even in its infancy, Hoffman's turned out, here it is, 20,000 bricks a day. There we go, thanks to the mechanised brick press on-site, Tooting Railway and Paterton Hoffman Kiln, in itself the size of a small fortification that perpetually baked bricks. So this is 1870, so we're getting 20,000 bricks a day. So what's that, 140,000 a week, which is 565. So we're talking about 6 million bricks a year. Now, 6 million bricks may sound like a lot, but when you're talking big, 4 or 5 story buildings with big thick walls and internal walls, then 6 million bricks, you might build 1 or 2 of those. But it's nowhere near enough to build a whole city. And this, again, is 10 years after the city. We've got photos of the city already being built out. As we see here, 1860, look at this building. Another big thick building, brick walls, 2, 3 story buildings all up and down the road. And this is what we get. Again, this is, I think this is around 1900, but again, completely built out. This is Melbourne. And 1870s, this is the year that they started making bricks. Look at this, big 4-story brick building, big brick chimney, brick buildings. So there's something going on wrong with, there's something going on here with the dates. Just doesn't match. They're telling us that basically the industry really started to roll and churn out all these bricks in the 1870s. But Melbourne was already built out by the 1870s.
So this story is clearly false. Well, it's wrong because they tell us they don't know anyway. They just kind of, hint at things, half-truths. And this is the picture that we saw of the Hoffman brickworks. And just look at this. This is just kind of a bit silly. Massive big chimney here, brick building behind us, and these guys just standing around on a huge pile of bricks. But look at this building. Look at this wall in the background. How thick is that? Seriously, that's like 10 bricks thick. And it's just been smashed in half. Looks like there's a doorway down here, an arch. What's going on there? And what are all these bricks? If you were making bricks, you wouldn't just throw them in piles and then have to restack them again. They'd be getting stacked as they came out. These bricks look like they came from whatever this building was. Look how thick that is. What is that? Seriously. And this is the Brunswick potteries, which is put up as a brick maker, but clearly you can see there's no bricks here. At least they've stacked their pipes. They're not just got a few lying around. Look at this ground even. It's just so uneven. Why would you have that as a... you think that you'd level it so it'd be easier to work in. But they've got this one sort of big brick kiln and everything's just wooden. This is what you would expect to see back in this time. Wooden buildings, not these massive brick things that we see. But this, is put up as one of the brick makers, and it's clearly just a pottery maker making pipes. So there you go. Just doesn't add up. Now this is the Hoffman brickworks. Today, as it looks today, big brick building, got 3 kilns under here, big chimney and everything. But what's this? There doesn't really say much about what these photos are. It's just got, description. It's the same old thing. Just goes through all these dates. Doesn't really give you the production, changes hands. All the dates are too late anyway. I'll leave the link so you can have a read, but it's just really just fluff. There's nothing there. But what's this? This is under the ground of this brickworks that they're saying was built in 1870. How does the ground raise that high in, 150 years? And is this... it looks like it's sideways, but maybe that's like the top of an old, those arched brick roofs you see. But this as well, this is the brickworks in the background. And look at this. There's a whole nother building underneath it. So, and that other picture we saw, did they find these buildings? Look at this. Just, that's a ridiculous photo. Seriously. Look at that. Look at the thickness of this wall, and it's been smashed, bricks everywhere. These people just standing on top, all completely posing for this photo, obviously. So, is it a setup? But just weird. What was this original building? So did they find these brickworks is the question. Because look what's underneath. Is this part of the structure that, was that wall? Was this part of it too? Is this just a huge mud flood of a brickworks? Because that's very strange. This is the Hoffman brickworks, Victoria. And again, I'll leave it. You can have a read through. It doesn't say really much at all about, how many bricks they were producing. It talks about, kilns and sort of how they upgraded things. But again, it started in 1870. So it's too late. It's too late, baby. It's too late. The brick recyclers. History of brickmaking in Melbourne. Okay, let's jump in at this one. Since the earliest days of the Victorian colony, Brunswick and the surrounding suburbs that now make up Moorland City were places of industry. Indeed, brick manufacturing in Brunswick began in the 1840s. Oh, and continued until 1993. From the very beginning, through the construction of marvellous Melbourne to the place we know today, the bricks and labour of Brunswick really did build this city. Oh, well, before that they were telling us that the stonemasons built the city. They just can't decide, can they? The bricks and labour of Brunswick built the city. The imposing chimneys, kilns and brick pressing sheds of Hoffman Brickworks on Dawson Street are a reminder of Brunswick's past. Brickwork, quarrying and pottery were the economic backbone of Brunswick well into the 20th century. They shaped its character, its streets, its parks and its people in ways that continue to speak to us today. And though the industry may not be and though the industry may now be all gone, Hoffman's story lives on for us to add to. Oh, isn't that nice? And that's it. That's the history of brickmaking. That's it. I mean, come on. This is just silliness. Like, that says nothing. None of these, and these are all this is Victorian government, Victorian Heritage, council. Like, these are all, state government. None of them say anything. Heritage Council. They don't even explain what this is. And I mean, they can't really, because they've put the story up that it's opened in 1870. But how does this get sunk? What's going on there? So yeah, very strange. This is brick making in Melbourne. So just wanted to show you that. I've looked into the glass making industry, and I may put something together, but seriously, I can't find anything. All I can find is people who are manufacturing bottles and, pots and things, but not actually plate glass. It's a bit on like lead-like glass, but of course they weren't in the buildings. I mean, just this brickworks here, you can see it's got windows and stuff, or had. And then ironworks. There is a bit on ironworks, but again, it doesn't say a lot. And as far as they say they produced iron, but they don't really tell you, what they were producing, like what kind of materials, are they producing beams and that? Because when you look into it, most of it just looks to be the ornate sort of fencing, fireplace. It's just little bits and pieces, not construction iron. But like that, we'll need a bit more. I can do a bit more research on that. But we're hitting the 25-minute mark, so I might let this one finish up here. And yeah, just to look into the brickworks in Melbourne. It's, just silliness. Everything started in 1870, yet we have, these pictures, these silly pictures of the brickworks that, and then we have the pictures of the cities completely built out. And this one we saw in the last video, this is 1901, Collins Street, Melbourne. So this is 30 years after the brick industry started. And look at this. I mean, this is a ridiculous photo. Most of this is all gone now, but look at the amount of bricks and work and just everything, glass, iron, mortar, cement, everything. And then the artisans, the craftsmen, the labourers, the builders, the plan. There's no plans for any of these, but this is completely built out in old world buildings. 30 years after the brick manufacturer started, and of course we have the photos from the 1860s, big brick buildings, and apparently no brick industry in Victoria. So another story that makes absolutely no sense at all, guys. So I hope you liked that one, just to look at where they actually got these bricks from, and clearly they can't tell us. There's no story that makes sense, and they clearly just say they don't know. So thanks for spending some time with me. Hope you enjoyed that one, and I shall catch you on the next upload. Bye for now.